Hey, what's up? So I'm going to be working on the XMaxx again, and in this video I'm going to be re-gearing it to a 46 tooth spur gear and a 20 tooth pinion, and I will also be installing these RPM rear axle carriers and the aluminum hexes. These are the RPM carriers I'll be using. These come with a larger bearing, so that way the bearing will last longer. I'll be installing a 20 tooth pinion and this 46 tooth spur gear. I don't use the Traxxas spur gears because the metal's a little bit more brittle and I've chipped some teeth on the Traxxas spur gears. And I'll be installing these blue aluminum wheel hexes. On the plastic ones I had a problem with stripping them out on my old XMaxx. So these hexes are pretty easy to install. You just take this clip out with a screwdriver. Make sure you don't lose it. Slide it off, slide the new one on, and put that clip back on. And that's it. For the rear bearing carriers, you go ahead and take the hexes off. And there's two screws holding the pins in. And just use something to push the pin out from the backside. Then you can take this out. You'll need to reuse this front bearing. And that's the old bearing that we won't be using. Install the bearing that came out of the original carrier into the outside of it. And then install the RPM bearing into the inside. And you can see the difference in the size of bearings. And also the quality of the part is a lot stronger. Then just reinstall your axle. And the pins. I'll go ahead and install the new hex. That side's ready to go. I went ahead and installed the other side as well. I'll go ahead and start on the gearing. I'll go ahead and remove the two screws for the gear cover. So to get the spur gear out, you just need to remove these two screws right here and these two screws in the back. Okay, now you can take the pinion off. And you can get the spur gear out now. Now with the spur gear out, it's just these three screws. This is the spur gear I'll be using. It's from CDS Racing, 46 tooth. And you can see right here, it's even a little bit wider for the gears. And that's why I use these aftermarket ones. If you are going to be running the stock speed controller, you probably won't want to use a 46 tooth spur gear and a 20 tooth pinion. It will probably overheat that speed controller. These aftermarket spur gears are a little tighter than the factory ones, so it's a little harder to get on here. You'll want to make sure it's on here. Don't just use the screws to force it on, because you will probably strip out the plastic. Okay, and that's ready to install back in the truck. When you're reinstalling this plate, make sure the longer screws go to the center of the truck. This is the pinion gear I'll be using. It's a 20-tooth from Techno RC. This one actually has skinnier teeth than the stock pinion, but it's the only one I was able to find in stock. Loctite on here, so I don't have to worry about that coming loose. Now I can install it back on here. And I'm just going to get it centered as best I can on that spur gear. Okay, now that that's done, I can go ahead and set the gear mesh. I can go ahead and disconnect the motor. And from the bottom you can get to these screws. Now you can pull the motor up and out. There is a fan motor wire that is connected, so you can only pull it out so far. I'm running the 20-46 gear ratio, which is F. So I need to move this pin over to F. And same thing with this pin. Now I can go ahead and reinstall the motor. And that should drop into place. Hold the motor, flip it over. And then you can install these screws. Alright, so that's it for this video. I'm going to leave it how it is right now because I have some more upgrades to install. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.